Hi, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Queen's University of Charlotte and the beautiful Sarah Belk Gambrell Center for the Arts and Civic Engagement. It's wonderful to see you all in the audience this evening and to see such an interest in an important topic and to have the opportunity to experience this together as a community. My name is Dr. Melinda Harper, and I'm the chair of the psychology department and also a licensed clinical psychologist with a personal and professional passion in mental health and well-being. I am honored to serve this evening as your facilitator, along with some of our senior psychology majors who share my passion and pursuit of training and study in the field of psychology. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the efforts of our colleagues and champions of mental health and wellness here in the audience this evening. I'd like to first give a special acknowledgement to Dr. Maggie Cummins, Professor and Chair of Political Science, International Studies, and Sociology, for bringing this lovely author and her personal and thoughtful book to our campus. I'm also thrilled to recognize the many representatives of local organizations and community members here in Charlotte, and also several of our campus partners, including athletics, student life, Belk Chapel, the Department of Psychology, the Psychology Club, and Queen's Counseling Services. I would also like to acknowledge our amazing student body here in the audience with us this evening. Welcome. With that said, I'd like to start our program by bringing out Kate Weaver, the Executive Director of NAMI Charlotte, who will introduce our speaker for the evening.
Thank you so much for being here tonight for this important discussion. Mental health affects all of us, whether it's personal or it's someone you love. Yet despite its significance, it's often overlooked or misunderstood. But tonight, we are here to give mental health the attention, the space, and the time it truly deserves. I'm so grateful to Queen's University for hosting us tonight and to our featured speaker, Haley, for being so vulnerable and sharing her story. I'm Kate Weaver, and as Melinda said, I'm the Executive Director of NAMI Charlotte, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And we are dedicated to supporting families who are affected by mental illness throughout the Charlotte community. And we do that by supporting, having educational classes and community programs. And one of the programs I wanted to highlight tonight is a program called NAMI on Campus. And this is a student-led organization that helps to bring mental health awareness to campus, reduce stigma, and to bring speakers. And all the universities in the Raleigh-Durham area have one, but we are a little bit behind. So we would love for Queen's University to start a NAMI on campus here. And we've got information in the lobby after the presentation, so please check it out. Conversations about mental health are important because they break down stigma, they encourage understanding, and they provide support for people who need it. And when we make space for these discussions, we give permission for others to tell their story. So tonight, we are in for a treat. I have the immense pleasure and honor of introducing our author and my daughter, Haley Weaver. I've known Haley for a little over 30 years, and I'd like to share some insights that led to this moment. We're going all the way back to 1998. When Haley started kindergarten at Myers Park Traditional, which some of you may know is the elementary school right behind this university. When she would get out of the car to go to kindergarten, she was too anxious to walk into the classroom. She would wait by the door until someone happened to come along, and then she would scoot in right behind them. So anxiety has been her companion from a very early age. That December, her class was on this stage doing a performance. They were singing holiday songs, and the teacher gave each student an opportunity to say one line. And so there's a microphone that was set up right up front, and each student would walk right up. Well, when it came to be Haley's turn, she walked up to the microphone, looked out, and then just turned around and walked back. Never said her line. So we just knew that as as she grew up, she was battling anxiety all the time. I watched her develop all of these coping mechanisms that she has turned into characters, and she always felt her anxiety was a liability. But then she began to draw and write, and she turned it into a superpower. Art and writing became her outlets, and through her illustrations about mental health on Instagram, she built a following of over 250,000 people from all over the world. That led to a book deal with Random House, and Give Me Space, but Don't Go Far was born. And so tonight, after 26 years, Haley will return triumphantly to the stage. So please welcome her.
Hi. I'm going to say all my lines tonight. And I do want to say that there was one other, I think, event on this stage, which was my 4th grade recorder recital, and I'm hoping to not bomb this like I did that. I really appreciate all of you being here, especially the students. I know how these required or evening things can sometimes be, and I'm hoping this will be a blast. I'm going to be reading from my book. It's an illustrated memoir about my journey with anxiety. And behind me, I have most of the characters from the book. So the pink heart is me. And then the black scribble that kind of looks like a meatball is anxiety. And then all the way across are all of the coping mechanisms that show up throughout the book. So today I'm going to be reading an essay about my experience as a swimmer and an athlete, and specifically an athlete that experienced a ton of anxiety. So that's our little guy with the floral cap up here. But a few others are going to show up in the chapter, and since I'm not going to keep you all night and read my entire book to you, those are going to be the little green guy in the camo outfit. He likes to hide from people seeing me, like he wants to help me hide and not be perceived by people. And then the yellow one with the weights around it is the vault, and she doesn't like me to speak what I'm thinking because I'm afraid of what people will think about me. So I'll get started with reading. And if you have a book, it's page 201 if you want to follow along. Chapter 6. I wish I could say it was my destiny to be a swimmer. Where did she learn to swim? By God, she's a natural. But the truth is, I became a swimmer because I was terrible at everything else. Haley, defend the goal. How do I close the curtain? Pull harder. Let's stick to somersaults for now. This sport seems dangerous anyway. My almost comical lack of hand-eye coordination, coupled with the fact that both my parents grew up swimming competitively, led to my mom signing me up for the summer league swim team at our neighborhood pool. If the past has taught me anything, this isn't going to go well. Also, it looks cold. Swim practice started mid-morning. I'd line up with the other 5-year-olds along the edge of the shallow end, goggles tightly strapped over our eyes. We took turns jumping in while holding our noses, and a teenage coach held my belly up as I kicked and flailed and pulled my head out of the water, gasping for air. Can you breathe? Is it cold? Are your goggles too tight? But in a shocking twist of events, I loved it. Again! I loved how quiet it was beneath the surface, everything around me muted and muddled. I loved the swim meets where I ate strawberry ice pops after finishing my single lap races. I loved making up games in the deep end with my siblings, all of us jumping on my dad's back and begging to stay just a little longer. And I loved that no matter how hard he tried, anxiety couldn't quite keep up with me. Aren't you afraid of swallowing all the pool water and sinking to the bottom? If you want to talk to me, you're going to have to get in. That's because underwater, there was a different presence drawing me in. Some might call it endorphins. To me, she was the diver. So the diver is known for smelling like chlorine, taking deep breaths when it counts, and being a really reliable workout buddy. And she says, the sooner we jump in, the quieter the world gets. The diver loved the water even more than I did. She showed me how freeing it felt to jump off the diving board, to touch the tiles at the bottom of the pool, to float on the surface with our arms and legs splayed out like sea stars. Lifeguard, how is this safe? Jump on in, the water's fine. Okay, you can come up now. Let me know if you want to use my flotation device. When my parents asked if I wanted to try out for a year-round swim team following my 9th birthday, I danced around the kitchen, thrilled that the end of summer would no longer mean the end of swimming. You mean I get to swim every month of the year? Yeah. Oh. A week later, I performed each of the 4 strokes in the shallow end of an Olympic-sized pool, showing off my best technique to the coach pacing the deck. My dad sat on the bleachers and gave me a thumbs up when I finished. She belongs in the water like the stars belong in the sky. The club team had over 800 kids, divided into groups based first on age and then speed. I was assigned to the mid-tier group for 9 and 10-year-olds, but beyond that, I didn't know much about the place where I'd be spending 4 afternoons and 1 Saturday morning a week. Even still, I figured I would be a great addition to the team. Just 2 months earlier, I had been part of a record-breaking relay with my summer league swim team, as evidenced by the blue ribbon I'd pinned to my bedroom wall. But what if we never win again? Oh, hush, we're just getting started, I bet. But when I walked through the entryway of the aquatic center on my first day of practice, I felt intimidated by the glass cases lining the walls. They were filled with trophies and championship plaques and photographs of swimmers on podiums, the medals around their necks catching the glint of the camera's flash. From every direction, it was clear this was a place where champions were made. Are we really qualified to be here? And where's the snack stand? And then there was the pool. It was the same 50-meter pool I'd tried out in, but with various practice groups in session, it looked bigger and uninviting. The deck was a long expanse of wet concrete, and aside from the narrow windows along the walls, there wasn't much natural light reaching the water. But what felt most daunting of all were the bleachers bordering the pool, packed with kids who seemed like they knew they belonged there, stretching and straightening the straps of each other's bathing suits. Why does everyone else have a kickboard? Are we supposed to have one? Oh no, we're already failing. I perched myself on the edge of the first row as a tall man in a team-branded baseball cap walked onto deck. Hi, coach. Hi, everybody. And that's when I learned what life as a year-round swimmer really looked like. My new coach described the coming year's schedule, noting the inter-squad meets and the dual meets and the qualifier meets and the championship meets, all packed in before school let out for summer. We were expected to attend every practice, and when he passed out sheets of paper that listed the race time standards he hoped we would each hit that year, I realized I was nervously chewing on the straps of my goggles. Wait, some of these races are more than 4 laps. You've never done that. The 40 swimmers in my group were divided among 6 lanes, and though I felt awkward as I stood behind some girls laughing over an inside joke, the unease of being one of the new kids seemed to dissipate the moment I dove in. Sure, the water here was colder than my neighborhood pool, and the number of laps we were expected to swim was far more than I was used to, but the movements were the same. Don't worry, I'm guarding your stuff. I feel great. Hey, you're doing great. It didn't take long, however, for practice to start kicking my ass. They're doing this set how many times? Oh, she's got this. The first few months on the swim team felt like I had accidentally signed up for a rigorous boot camp. We did more yardage in a week than I had in a month on my summer league team, and swimming was often followed by dry land, a term attributed to the crunches and squats and pull-ups we do in a small room just off the aquatic center's entryway. You can't even do 1 pull-up? Quick, jump from the ground before anyone sees. But at the same time, I found myself slowly making friends at both practice and the week-long swim meets. It was almost as if the chlorine was a platonic love spell, helping me bond with my teammates first over our shared sport, and then everything else. Want to sleep over Friday after practice? Yeah. What if we mess up this friendship? Do you need my services? That's the liar. He tells me to lie about everything. It's really great. No. The friendship water cultivates is so beautiful. And with all of this time spent in the pool came results. My technique slowly improved over the next few weeks and months, as did my endurance and speed. So wait, if I keep practicing, I'll keep getting better? Yes, everything is better in the water. Best of all, my worries still seemed to melt away during practice. It didn't matter where I sat at lunch, at school, or how much homework I had, or if I got invited to the big party everyone was talking about, which I didn't. For an hour and a half, my only job was to move back and forth between the walls of the pool like a ping pong ball. How can she swim at a time like this? We have so much to discuss. Even during my earliest days as a swimmer, I preferred practice far more than competing. Sometimes I felt like I was missing a crucial piece of hardware that my peers seemed to have, the deep desire to race, to win. I would have picked the quiet, almost therapeutic repetition of lap swimming any day. Who's ready to race? Me? How about no? Racing is scary. What if you lose? What if everyone watches? What if no one watches? The possibilities are endless. But competitive swimming didn't work like that. Instead, I slowly moved up through my team's program, first to the mid-tier group for 11 and 12-year-olds, then to the next level a few months before I started 8th grade. With each movement up the ladder, the expectations of us at practice and in competition only got bigger. For a while, this was fine. It was the first time I felt like I had settled into the rhythm of being good at something, at having a purpose. Is it just me, or is this pace a little too fast? Ooh, I can't wait. The view up here is great. By age 13, I'd slipped into a full-blown swimmer identity. I love it. But what if you don't get better at this? It's too late. This is who I am now. I wore my team t-shirts to school almost every day, announcing who I was just by taking off my jacket. The journals I kept were replaced with practice logs, where I'd meticulously track the yardage we did each day. I even changed my AIM screen name to Chlorine Queen 624. Is it weird to write an acrostic poem about swimming on my AIM profile? You're kidding. I love it. I took immense solace in having a word to encapsulate who I was. I was a swimmer. I swam. It felt as if I'd been playing a long game of Marco Polo with myself, eyes closed and arms outstretched as I waded through the water, finally finding the real me. What could go wrong? It was also around this time that I started to feel acutely aware of my body. Oh God, how do we change all of it? Puberty had descended upon me in my preteen years, a natural adage of weight and height and acne changing both my appearance and my perception of myself. I began hiding under my baggy swim team sweatshirts rather than wearing them proudly as an identifier, and I reapplied concealer a few times a day, smearing it across my forehead and down the bridge of my nose like a disguise. That'll have to do for now. I have extra camouflage pants if you want them. The one place I felt like I couldn't truly hide was in my bathing suit. The one piece I'd once slid into without a second thought began to feel like a display case, highlighting all of the parts of my body I carefully covered up the rest of the day. I resented how my suit left red imprints on my shoulders and hips like temporary tattoos, and I often found myself tugging the fabric away from my abdomen, trying to keep the tight polyester from accentuating where my ribcage stopped and my stomach began. When I walked from the locker room onto the pool deck, I'd hug my equipment bag to my chest, a momentary censorship of the terrain beneath it. Why are you holding your bag like that? Oh, it's just easier this way. I can't decide which is worse, people seeing your body or people thinking you're weird for carrying your bag like that. Part of me knew this was a common feeling, that adolescents often grew to dislike parts or all of their bodies. Even though I continued to cover myself the second I could, wrapping a towel around my torso after races or sitting with my knees pulled tightly to my chest, I found relief in the thought that I wasn't alone. I don't feel good in my skin, but who does? Well, probably all of those unattainably good-looking celebrities in the shows you watch. I looked forward to diving in for practice, comforted by how the water's surface distorted everything beneath it. And I still loved how swimming made me feel, how powerful my body felt as it plowed through the water, how it sent endorphins through the very limbs I'd frowned at in the mirror earlier that day, and especially how it offered an escape from the cruel voice in my head, my focus only on the next dive, the next breath, the next lap. The water's natural healing powers are working. When my coach asked me to talk at the end of practice a few weeks after my 15th birthday, I had no clue what he wanted to discuss. I'd been performing pretty well in practice and my attendance was nearly perfect. Let's talk about your goals. Oh, okay, well, I definitely want to drop time in my top events. My coach was a middle-aged man who wore t-shirts with baggy cargo shorts every day, tossing a tennis ball at the wall as he watched our mid-level 15 to 18-year-old group follow the set he'd written on the whiteboard. He was known for his boisterous laugh and distance-heavy practices and coffee breath. I was desperate for his approval. That's a good goal, but I think if you want to drop time, you're going to need to lose some weight. Oh. Well, I think this is one of those conversations that's going to haunt you for the rest of your life. He was correct. My coach nodded toward one of my teammates stretching further down the deck, a friend of mine who was kind and shy and quite fast. Look at Lily. She's getting her best times because she puts in the work in the pool and the kitchen. I know. Lily and I were built quite differently. Where I had curves, Lily was lean and muscular. Where my thighs touched, hers did not. Where my suit hugged tight, hers hung a little loose. It felt as if she was a compact car and I was an SUV, looking on helplessly as a car salesman tried to convince prospective buyers we were the same make and model. They're identical. Is this a joke? I looked back on this moment as an adult, and I feel sorry for Lily and I feel sorry for me. No matter how little I ate or how often I held a plank, my body was just never going to look like hers. But at the same time, I just looked at my coach and nodded. Okay, I'll try. I didn't tell anyone about that conversation. For a while, my cheeks would flare red with shame whenever I thought about it. When I dove in the pool the next day at practice, I could hardly bear to look at the diver. What's going on? I just don't know if I belong here as much as I thought I did. And even worse, anxiety was learning to swim. Wait, where did you get that equipment? I don't know, it was just waiting on the pool deck for me today. I didn't lose weight. I don't even know what I could have done to try, since my training schedule already required more calories than I was consuming. But my discomfort with my appearance slowly morphed into self-loathing. My fear that my body was a problem had been confirmed, and it left me wishing I was a hermit crab, able to escape my current shell for a new one. At least the water is still calming, right? It would be more healing if it actually changed the way I looked. I found myself working harder in practice than I ever had before. The more I pushed myself, the harder it was to think about anything but the ache in my muscles, the burn in the back of my throat. The faster you go, the harder it is for anyone else to see you. But it remained therapeutic, helping to unravel the massive criticism gnawing in my brain. And what was I saying? I can't keep my thoughts straight. That's the point. I guess the hard work paid off. I ended up having a great season-ending meet. In fact, I swam fast enough to move up to the top practice group in the coming season. That was an incredible swim. See, I told you, swimming isn't just about your body, it's about becoming one with the water. Yeah, I guess so. But what if it was a fluke? Your body hasn't changed since your coach talked to you. In the top group, however, I was at the bottom of the barrel. Many of my teammates had swum fast enough to go to national meets, some having even already qualified for Olympic trials. I spent the 2-hour practices worrying that the person leading my lane might lap me, and I secretly wished I could think of an excuse to get out of practice. And no breathing on your turns. Quick, come up with a reason to leave. Can you throw up or get a bloody nose? Come on, think. Worst of all, anxiety and the diver were at odds the whole time. Forget the body stuff, we're too slow, we're gonna get lapped. Hey, don't listen to him. The only saving grace of this group was my friends. Since there were 7 practices during the week, most of my time was spent with them either in the pool or at the cafe nearby, recounting the horrors of the previous practice while stealing bites of hash browns from each other's plates. If I never swim another lap of butterfly, I'll be more than good. Same. But I couldn't help comparing myself to them. I was the slowest of my friend group, and as college recruitment became a topic of conversation, I felt like an imposter, a blinking satellite in a sky of shooting stars. I just found out I'm going on recruiting trips to my top 3 school. Same. I never thought to ask myself why I wanted to swim in college, instead accepting it as the next step in competitive swimming and in my life. You know, you don't have to swim on a college team. You could just do it for fun or on your own. But then what have we been spending all this time working for? We're nothing without this. You're not wrong. My performance at swim meets had tanked since moving up to the top group. Even though I had once seen competition as just another part of swimming, the seriousness my coach placed upon each race left a buzz of panic in my chest. If you have any desire to get recruited for a top college program or stay in this training group, I need to see some results. Well, we're screwed. Hey, who cares? Let's just try to enjoy the ride. It got to the point that I'd tremble behind the block before a race, nausea claiming my stomach. Why would you go fast today if you didn't go fast at the last swim meet? And if you swim slow, that'll be embarrassing since most people are dropping time. I wish there was a way to disappear. I could help. Hey, you've done this before, dozens of times. It doesn't have to be the best race of your life. Tell that to the college recruiters in the stands. I sobbed on the drive home from almost every swim meet. My parents sat in the front seat, unsure of how to console me. I guess that's why we ended up at the doctor's office halfway through my junior year of high school. So, I hear it's been a tough year. What's been going on? Hey, rule number 5, nothing vulnerable shall be spoken. Are you kidding? She doesn't have visible abs. She's not fast enough to do well at practice and swim meets, much less get recruited to the type of schools her friends are. She's not the same gene size as her favorite reality TV stars, and her whole body fills with terror when she arrives at the pool each day because her coach writes the most sadistic sets on the planet. Oh, and I mentioned she's going to fail at life because swimming is the only thing she's good at, and she's not even good at that? I wish I could have admitted the extent of it, that I wasn't just feeling weird, but rather as if a permanent knot was forming in my stomach. I wish I could have said that I fantasized about spraining my ankle or getting a head cold, anything to ensure I'd miss a few practices. I wish I could have told her how much I pinched the skin on my stomach and legs, willing it to go away. But instead, I forced a smile, the waxy paper on the examination table crinkling as I shifted my legs. I think I'm just getting a little stressed about college recruitment and I haven't been racing very well. Just nerves. And you want to keep swimming? My cheeks felt hot. Of course I was going to keep swimming, I wanted to say. Who was I without it? I tried to imagine my afternoons after school, empty with no practice to attend. The uncertainty of a life without it felt 10 times scarier than soldiering on in the pool. Yes, I do. I definitely do. I just don't want to be afraid of competing. The appointment ended with my doctor saying I was physically healthy, but that it sounded like I was experiencing sports performance anxiety. She prescribed me an anti-anxiety medication, hoping it would mitigate the unhelpful thoughts. Let's have you check back in 2 months and see how you're responding to it. In a perfect world, this daily pill would do it all: turn my swimming career around, build a metaphorical dam around my insecurities, and even restore my love for the sport. It was that easy? This is great. But the one I'd been prescribed was a bad fit. How do you feel? I feel nothing. Nothing at all? Nope, nothing. Mayday, mayday, can you hear me? I hear you, but I feel nothing. My stress was slowly replaced with a fog of apathy. Instead of crying after a bad race, I just shrugged. Perhaps this was a welcome change from the flood of emotions I had become accustomed to, but I was actually swimming slower, a lot slower. Okay, that was a bad swim. Do you want to come float in the warm-down pool with me? I didn't stay on it very long. This can happen. Sometimes we have to try a few things before we find something that works. Wait, this could happen with other medications too? I'm afraid so. It's not one size fits all, unfortunately. This was my first lesson in medication. It wasn't an immediate solution. Rather, it was a journey, one that would feel frustrating at times. I'd end up going on and off antidepressants well into my adulthood, eventually finding comfort in how they helped stabilize me. I'm here to be part of your support system, not the entire support system. But at the time, I wasn't willing to risk another poor pharmaceutical matchup, not with so much on the line. I needed to go fast. I needed to be recruited for college. The way I saw it, there was no other path forward. Swimming felt much more important than my mental health. I think I'd rather just go off them. Oh, good, you'll listen to me again. Sometimes I wonder how it all happened, how I made it through the final year of club swimming, how I continued to treat swimming like the pinnacle of my existence, even when our relationship had clearly grown toxic. Now that I have your attention, let's imagine all the ways you could embarrass yourself in the water, starting with making accidental underwater eye contact with someone through your goggles. Hey, remember me? I committed to swim for a Division III program at a small liberal arts college. Fortunately, things took a turn for the better on my new team. The program was less intense, my teammates were fun, and best of all, I looked forward to swim practice again, even with the insecurity and race anxiety that had followed me there. A change of scenery is nice, right? Chlorine gives me hives no matter the location. It also helped that my college swim coach seemed to recognize my anxiety early on, sitting me down in his office after our first meet to remind me that swimming, even competitively, was nothing more than a sport. I mean it when I say this. It's just swimming. There are going to be far harder things you'll deal with in life than racing another 18-year-old. Try and enjoy it. Psht, good try, but I'm pretty sure we know everything there is to know about life. But it seems that the self-doubt and the nausea twisting through my stomach before a race had seeped into my love for the sport like poison until it was impossible to separate the two. Anxiety had found his place in swimming, and I couldn't imagine the sport without his voiceover. And at this dual meet, Haley must beat the rival swimmer or else the entire team will definitely lose and also the apocalypse will commence probably. You know that's not true. When I hung up my suit after my championship meet senior year, I had no intention of putting it back on. I'll see you soon, right? Do you want to tell her or should I? As a swimmer, I had spent a lot of time thinking about the end of practice, the end of the race, the end of the season, but I rarely thought about what would happen at the end of my swimming career. What now? The identity crisis began almost immediately. I knew this would happen. We should have figured out our hobbies earlier. Hey, you always said swimming was all we had. That doesn't sound like me. I felt unsure of who I was without the militant structure of a practice schedule, but tried to convince myself that it was a good thing. I was moving on. At least, that's what I told myself when I declined my dad's invitation to join him for a morning swim, or even a friend's request to spend a summer day by the pool. It was as if the search for myself started over. I figured the answer had to be somewhere, so I looked for clues everywhere. At my first desk job, is this what I'm meant to be doing? Writing toilet repair blogs from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m.? I really hope not. And at the cycling classes I took with my mom, this is your moment, your ride, your destiny. I hope that's not true. And on the dance floors of crowded bars on late Friday nights. dance like it's the end of the world. I love this place. The world can't end yet. We've accomplished nothing. I even moved across the country, hoping I'd find answers there. Here is what I wish I could have told myself. You're not going to find yourself in one place. Your true self wasn't waiting for you in the pool, and she isn't tapping her fingernails at the desk of her dream job. She's not sitting in another state or country living the life you were always supposed to live. Where is she? I've been waiting forever. I know, right? We have no problems. I barely talk in this version of life. Not unlike the water itself, you are not static. Instead, you move with the waves of change and growth and setbacks. There is not one answer to the question, who are you? The answers could be infinite, and the answers are never set. But that's not how lessons are learned. The person I'm supposed to be has to be around here somewhere. 1 year after moving to Seattle, I spent a Sunday afternoon walking around a neighborhood near my house. Life was okay. I'd had 2 different jobs since moving out there, and for the first time in my life, I'd built a community that had nothing to do with swimming. But shocker, anxiety was ever present, following me around as I walked along the main drag. I was thinking about grabbing a coffee when I noticed it. The scent of chlorine, thick and musty and unmistakable. I looked up and saw a massive neon sign in the shape of a woman diving above the name of a gym in bold yellow text. Without hesitating, I turned on my heel and walked through the door. Hey, I was wondering, do you guys have a pool? We do. Would you like a tour? That'd be amazing. I followed her down the hall where she opened a door, and there it was, a small pool divided into 6 lap lanes. Among the people swimming was a familiar face. Oh my gosh, it's really you! For the first time in a long time, the sight of it all, the diver, the water, the lane lines and kickboards and pace clocks, even the thought of sliding my body back into a bathing suit, hit me like a wave of nostalgia rather than dread. We also have a hot tub for members over there. I'll take it. Huh? A membership, I mean. But I didn't pack my scuba gear. I came back the next day with my old practice suit and goggles in tow. Are you sure you remember how to do this? Of course she does. After just a few laps, my muscles felt like jello and I got water up my nose, but I felt as if I'd found a reset button, one that brought me back to the feeling I'd had at the neighborhood pool all those years ago, where each splash and kick and breath felt new and strange and powerful. Whoa, I'm out of shape. Oh, who cares? You're here and it feels good. I only swam for 20 minutes that day. After pulling the swim cap off my head, I leaned back until I was floating, my body supported by nothing but water. I'm so glad you're here. Me too. It feels weird, but good. Yeah, the first time back is always a little odd. I'd never thought of it that way, that perhaps it could be the first time more than once. Will I see you tomorrow? I shook my head, finding comfort in the sudden realization that swimming didn't need to be the center of my life in order for me to return to it. It could still be a part of me, though. How about later this week? I'll be here. Maybe this is kind of nice. I could always begin again. Yay! Yay.
That was wonderful, Haley. Thank you so much. Yeah. I imagine many of us in the audience, including myself, found that portion very insightful and relatable. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to invite our special representative of the Queen's student body on stage with me. I'm thrilled to introduce our student panel who will spearhead the Q&A portion of the evening. While they make their way to the stage and I introduce them, I also want to invite the audience to consider 1 or 2 questions in mind they would like to ask Haley. If there is time, we have microphones set up in the back of the auditorium, so you'll have a chance to ask a question if you're interested also. But first, I'd like to invite Jenna Livingston, a senior psychology major, who is also minoring in computer and data analytics. She currently serves as the president of the Psychology Club and a leader in the Transition to University, or TTU, program. She is also part of the Honors College and serves as an RA in Hayes Hall. Thank you. Next, I'd like to invite Lucas Goslin. Lucas is also a senior psychology major and a representative of the men's tennis team. He serves in multiple leadership roles on campus, including Student Athletic Council, a returning multi-year TTU leader, and is also involved in the clinical community here with the practices of Drs. Lurie and Lord and the Mecklenburg Psychological Association. He is also currently doing a consulting internship with Dr. Tommy DeRossett. Thank you, Lucas, for being here. That's great. Wonderful. Last but not least, we have Franca Henseleit. Franca is also a senior psychology major and a representative of our vibrant international community and comes to us from Munich, Germany. She recently wrapped up a successful athletic career and captain leadership with the women's triathlon team. Similar to Lucas, she is a returning multi-year TTU leader and also doing a consulting internship with Dr. DeRosset as well. And in a few short months, I actually think maybe a few short weeks in December, she will be a college graduate and actively on the job market if anyone in the audience is hiring. Excellent. Okay, I will turn it over to the students then. Excellent.
All right, thank you so much for being here, Haley. This is so exciting. I just wanted to ask, so at one point you spoke of how your distraction fatigue kind of transitioned into distraction exhaustion after denying your feelings for too long. What are some ways that you would say you could avoid getting to this point?
Yeah, so Jenna's referring to a chapter in the book where I'm moving from Charlotte, North Carolina to Seattle. And this happened right after I graduated college. And I was so hopeful that I was going to find this beautiful life out there and escape all my problems, kind of like what I referenced in the swimming chapter. And my coping mechanism in that chapter is distraction. So for me, distraction often looks like 4 hours on TikTok, which I don't know if you guys have ever gotten the ad where it's you've been on this app too long. It's very unfortunate. Or that, or a deep Reddit hole of horror movie plots, descriptions and stuff like that. So I think that's what you're referring to. And I don't know if I have a good answer. I think I usually don't realize I have distraction exhaustion until I have it, and then I'm like, oh no, I overdid it. I read too many horror movie plots on Wikipedia. But usually if I spend a lot of time trying to not sit with my thoughts or face something head on, that's usually a clue that there's something underlying and maybe something I should address. And it's usually something to do with my anxiety. So I think it's just listening to your body, sitting still for a minute, not looking at a screen or distracting yourself in some way, and just feeling what you're feeling, and if it's hard, figuring out how to address it beyond just avoiding it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
One thing we wanted to know was which character in anxiety is something you can still continue to struggle with today?
All of it. No. I think my anxiety shows up really differently. Most of this book is during my early 20s, and my anxiety was so bad from the transition to college to real life, not to scare half of the people in this audience. But I really struggle with transition, and I think any transition in my life feels big. So even coming out with this book, the transition to being doing public events, this is scary. I hope you all know that. And I don't know if it really gets easier, but I think developing the coping mechanisms and making them a little stronger really helps. But yeah, the anxiety is always going to be loud. That's been my discovery. It's just coping with it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Actually, in the chapter you just read to us, you mentioned how strong of an identity you held to swimming and athletics. And for me, myself, I just recently went through a medical retirement here from Queen's University with the track and triathlon program, which was definitely not planned for, and I didn't want to, but I eventually had to adjust to it. And I was just wondering if you could give us an insight in what helped you to cope with all of that, because I feel like eventually everyone, regardless of an athlete or not, will come to the point where they have to give up some part of their identity and shift it to something new, or just be open to explore something new. And yeah.
It's so hard. And I know there are a lot of athletes in the building tonight, and I think, you're taught your entire career as an athlete that it's what you wake up to do. You're eating to fuel yourself, you're going to practice, you have these incredible bonds with your teammates. And to leave that behind, you truly do feel like someone just took all of your clothes and threw them away and was like, you need to go make an outfit in the woods. And you're like, I don't know how. That's how I felt, at least. So I think the unfortunate answer is time, because I think it takes time to figure out who you are outside of your sport. For me, it took having my first year at a job where I truly did write blogs about toilets. That was my first job, just FYI. It took going through that and kind of hitting a personal rock bottom feeling of I do not want this to be my life, where I started drawing and exploring art a little bit more and focusing on my writing, because I always wanted to be a writer. and kind of allowing myself to believe in that version of myself. But I also think it's important to never like fully dive into one facet of your identity. Like it's great to have all these different ways you can like express yourself. So between writing and drawing, and then being a friend, being a partner, being a daughter, being a sister, I think all of it really helps like develop. And then I think having a career that you're excited about can help, but I think we live in a world where we feel like our career has to define who we are, kind of similarly to how feeling like an athlete, like our athletic self defines who we are. And yeah, I think just exploring the things that really just bring you joy outside of that will help.
I love
deliver.
that. I think one of the most important things I heard with that was sports is what you do, but it's not who you are. And that's
Yes.
like with anything you do. So I think that helps a lot.
Yeah, it's so true. I think Lydia Jacoby, who's a breaststroker, just said that after she didn't make the Olympics this past year. And I mean, I can't even imagine. Like, I was not even close to that level. But being an Olympic swimmer in Tokyo and then not making the team and having to like remember that you're this person that's totally worthy and great outside of this incredible identity you have. I mean, it's hard for all levels. It really is. So yeah.
All right, thank you for that. So another question that I had asked, basically, you described adolescence as feeling kind of mythical to you. Do you think that the lack of realistic portrayals of adolescence contributed to you holding it to such unattainable standards?
Yeah, so Jenna's referring to another chapter in the book where I talk about my first year at middle school, which was traumatic. And I was the oldest in my family. I did not have a very constant representation of adolescence in my life outside of television and my really cool babysitter who wore wedges to babysit us. And I was like, she has it going on. And so I thought when I got to middle school that this entire world of having a boyfriend and being hot and all of this stuff was just gonna open up. And I got there and it was just I have so many zits. I don't know how to talk to anyone. I don't know where to sit at lunch. I'm scared to speak. But I think a lot of that vision of what an adolescent was supposed to be is kind of this bigger thing that I experience, at least in my life. I don't know if this will be relatable, but no matter what age I'm at, there's always something where I'm comparing myself to it. And so I think when I was 10, I was like, okay, well, I need to be cool and 13 and have braces, which sucked, by the way. And now I look at other writers, or I look at celebrities, or I look at outfits, and I'm like, I want to be that. And I think the bigger message I can pull from that is just trying to find peace with who you are and not always striving to be something that maybe you can be one day, but you're always also going to be you, and finding peace with that is super important.
Kind of building off that, you talked about bodily insecurity and not feeling comfortable in your own skin.
Yes.
What's a piece of advice you'd give someone who's struggling with something like that?
Yeah, good luck. I think we're all struggling. I really do believe that. I think everyone has something about their appearance that they can focus on and feel looks bad, but most of the time no one else is looking at it because they are thinking about themselves. A mantra that's been really helpful to me, at least I just turned 31, so I'm in my 30s, and I'm trying to be comfortable with wrinkles showing up and gray hair sprouting. It's very fun, but I keep reminding myself that my body is the vehicle that allows me to do all the things I love. So swim or bike or sleep or daydream, all of those things are because I have a body to do it in. And while it doesn't make the insecurities go away, because I don't think it's possible to just wake up every day and go, now that person looks good. I don't know if that's possible for me at least, but I do think you can be grateful for what you have, and that's helped at least a little bit for me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You were talking about so many great coping mechanisms, and I was just wondering if at some point any of those coping mechanisms made it to the point where they were just simply something you enjoyed doing, for example, the diver, or especially just I think in the last chapter you mentioned the hiker, of just going for a walk, and I think especially in those times where we struggled with the COVID-19 pandemic, we were all going on these mental health walks, and I was just wondering if now, for example, you just truly like to swim and just do it not for getting away from something.
Yeah, I love to swim now. It's so weird. I really hated swimming when I quit after my senior year of college, and I adore it now. I do it. I actually joined a master's team, which I never thought I would do. I'd laugh at myself if I was 21 and heard that. But a lot of the coping mechanisms in the book, I mean, the guy wearing the black pants with the flames, that's the liar. He doesn't really hang out that much anymore, but I used to lie all the time as a kid, so that one I would not say fits that. Actually, I don't know why I brought that one up. But I would say the one that, now that I'm thinking about it, the one who's wearing the drinking hat, I had a really hard time in college with drinking, and that was actually the other chapter I considered reading tonight since we're out of college, but it's a little darker. I actually got kicked out of college my sophomore year because I went to the hospital 3 times for drinking, and I never thought I would have a normal relationship with alcohol, and a lot of it was rooted in my social anxiety, and now I don't really rely on it at all, and I never thought that would happen when I was younger. So I would say that one feels pretty healthy and like simple now, which is a relief. And then I think the writer a little bit too. I used to put a lot of pressure on myself to write, and now it's something that feels pretty like relaxing and helpful to me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to quickly go back to your adolescence chapter.
Yeah, let's do it.
So you kept mentioning how your experience with adolescence like never really matched up with the movies or the TV shows that you watched. Now that you've been through it, do you have any recommendations for movies or TV shows that accurately depict it?
Yeah, to clarify, I watched Gossip Girl. And I don't know if any of you have watched Gossip Girl, but that show is not what high school was like, or middle, I mean, all of the shows. Everyone's really attractive and also like 25 years old when they're cast. So it was a really, I mean, I think it's still confusing, but there are some shows that I have watched as an adult where I'm like, I remember that feeling. And I'm not sure that any show like perfectly encapsulates the entirety of what adolescence feels like, but I don't know if anyone's watched Freaks and Geeks. It's like, I think it's 1 season, it's from the 70s, but it just follows these kids as they go through high school, and it's just like how unrequited love does not actually work out with you, like falling in love with your high school crush usually. I mean, at least it didn't for me. And like people being weird and having like hard family lives and not being great at everything. I think that really resonated for me. I love the movie 8th Grade. I hope everyone's seen that. It's so good. It's so cringy, but that's why it's accurate. And then I just saw the movie Dee Dee. It just came out pretty recently, and it's so cute. It's about a 13-year-old boy, and I think he's growing up at the same time that I was going into high school, so like 2007-ish. And so he had like MySpace and Facebook, which was where I was hanging out, unfortunately. And just like growing up with the internet, that felt like a lot of it rung really true for me. So go see it if you haven't.
One thing we were kind of wondering is, outside of partying, what's like the coping mechanism you like warn us most, like against the most, like stay away from?
It's a good question. I think I'm trying really hard to be more vulnerable. So the yellow guy with the weights, I call it, the name in the book is The Vaults. I really struggled with being vulnerable as a kid, and even today, it's really hard, and like this kind of thing is scary. You know, and I think when I'm reading, I'm like, oh, no one's actually listening. But when I look up, I'm like, oh my God. So talking really honestly about how I feel is something I'm always trying to be better about. And then I think that's the main one, actually, yeah.
Yeah, I get it. Being up here is not the greatest, so
No,
I get
it's
it.
scary.
You talked a little bit about your traveling experiences, and I had to think as an international student that, especially what you said with you always bring yourself with you, I was just wondering, like for those probably who started here also a new chapter, or anyone going to college, what helped you finding your safe space?
I think it's always come back to like having really supportive community. I think you can like be achieving your dreams, but if you don't have someone that you're like, you feel safe to talk about it with, or like something that has happened that's bad and you don't have someone to talk about it with, like that's really helped me through the really hard parts of transition. And then I think just trusting the process, as cheesy as that is, I really do believe like when you hit rock bottom, you will bounce back if you move forward, and especially are like honest with how you're feeling to like the people you trust, and having that trusted inner circle, and like keeping up with your college friends, obviously.
Haley, I just had one question, because I found this book so relatable and engaging, and it brought a to mind the movie Inside Out, like finding a way to make emotions and feelings more palatable and authentic, easy to talk about, maybe a little easier to talk about. I'm just curious, what's the next emotion you might tackle next? Is there a sequel? What
Great
other emotion are
question.
you working on right now?
Yeah, so I really want to do more, not like, I don't want to do a memoir quite yet. Again, I feel like there's not too much new stuff to say. But I really want to do an exploration of like healthy romantic love and how, in a lot of ways, it's kind of boring. It's like the most wonderful thing on earth, but it's also like, when it's good, it's just, my husband's like, what are you talking about? No, but like, I really mean that. I really mean that in like the kindest way. I think there is something so comfortable and safe about a really healthy love. And so that's what I really want to explore next and be super honest about how love is not what you see on like those posed TikTok dance videos, like where a couple is like dancing in the kitchen. I'm like, you set the camera, I know you set the camera up, like what? So I want to explore that in my next work. Yeah.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to ask Haley a question? I love the hands that popped up. There are 2 microphones in the back, and we have 2, sorry, the lights just hit me. I couldn't see. I know one is Dr. Cummins, and I believe it's Antonella. She is standing by the microphone. Wonderful. I love this. Great.
Hi. How did you come up with the title, and like, what's the meaning behind the title of your book?
That's such a good question. I wish I could take credit for it, but it was my agent who really came up with it. We were sitting on her floor eating burrito bowls, and I kept saying like, my friendship with anxiety, and she was like, that won't sell. And I was like, oh, yeah, you're right. But I think the main idea was like, because the book is about developing this like mostly positive and like loving relationship with anxiety, and that's kind of like not a normal take on anxiety. It felt nice to think of a way to like say, we're bringing anxiety closer, but like we're not touching, we're like more like waving and having this cordial relationship. So that's kind of where it came from. But I can't take credit, sadly. But I did say, we should do that title. That's good. Thank you for your question.
Any more questions? Any others? Excellent. Okay, thank you so much to our students and to Haley. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, you guys did great. I think we leave.
Yeah, just to wrap our evening up, I'd like to invite Kate Regan from Queens Counseling Services. She's going to share a little bit about the resources here on campus and in the community, and then invite us to join a light reception in the lobby. Kate, thank you.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for letting me steal a little bit of time. They said mental health, and I said, what? I'll be there. Thank you for inviting me. Like she said, I'm Kate Regan. I'm the director of counseling here, and any opportunity we have to say, like, hey, we're here on campus, and we're free, is a great opportunity. So thank you so much for starting this conversation with us tonight. I just want to remind everybody, we've been trying really hard to get more flyers across campus, but the printer ink ran out, so we got like through 3/4 of campus, so that's the next mission. But just want to drive home the point, we are here on this campus for a purpose, and we all sought out being on a college campus for a really specific reason. This is such an incredible time of life, but it is not necessarily the best 4 years, 5, 6, depending on what you're doing there. And we recognize that, and we recognize that transitions are exciting and transitions are really hard. We recognize that when you come to college, life doesn't just stop and you're not in this like cute bubble that protects you from the realities. And so we want to be here, and we want to be here with you guys. So remember that students have 10 free sessions each semester. You get 10 in the fall, starts fresh in the spring. I also encourage people to remember that counseling is not a mandatory, you come now, you're stuck with me for the next 4 years, and we're going to talk it through. You can come and talk to us for 2 sessions, for 1 session, or I can see you every other week for the next 4 years, and that's awesome too. Counseling is meant to be useful to you. It's not about what your counselor thinks is going on, it's about what is it that you want to address, what is it that you want to be different, and how can I walk with you in that pursuit. So please know that this is personal for you, and our mission is to support you in that personal project. So we are here Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. We have some earlier hours and some later hours, but for the ease of the message, we say 9 to 5. But in reality, when you email me, I say, send me your availability, let's make it work. We do have virtual counseling available. We do encourage folks who live on campus to just stick with in-person, because if you look in your room, there's not a lot of privacy. So usually it's easier to just come on into the counseling offices. For anybody who doesn't know, we're in Watkins Hall. We're right across from the coffee shop, very convenient. And let's see, how to make an appointment. That's a great thing, Kate. QU Counseling and atriumhealth.org. That is going to be your fastest, simplest way to make an appointment, because I can respond to you immediately, and you'll usually respond to me, because I'm not calling anybody out, but I'm just saying nobody actually listens to my voicemails. So just let's stick with email, and we'll get you on the schedule within 1 to 2 weeks. That is all there. I did, because somebody gave me a microphone, I want to highlight crisis counseling. It's on our next slide, because what we know is nobody plans to be in crisis. That's the whole point of the word crisis. And we know that they can pop up at any given time. And so it's important to us as counselors, but also as the Queens community, to be there and to let you know that you're there and not alone. So if you are Monday through Friday in the day and you're experiencing something that feels like a crisis to you, there is no one set determined, I'm in a crisis, or is this crisis enough? If you feel like it's a crisis, you come and you talk to a crisis counselor. We're going to do some solution focus. We're going to do some grounding. We're going to get you back to a place where you feel like you can think clearly to the next steps. We are painfully aware that not all crises happen Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. That would be super convenient. Life is not super convenient, and so we're really proud and excited to know that we can support students all year, so winter break, summer break, 2 a.m. on a Tuesday. All you have to do is call our regular office number, and you press extension 2, and you're connected to a licensed therapist. So that's through the outpatient and the crisis line with Atrium Health. I think another really important thing to remember is 988. Just launched, we're going into our 3rd year with 988. What a powerful tool. Everybody knows 911. Everybody needs to know 988, and you can text it too, because again, seems like nobody likes the phone, which is fine. I'm not a huge fan of it either, but you can text it to start that conversation. We're trying to do whatever we can, both here at Queens, but also as a community and as a nation, to take down some of these barriers that we as the humankind kind of built up, and now it's our job to break them back down. My closing note on resources is we are not gatekeepers. If you feel like you would be better served off campus, whether it's because you're not sure you want somebody to know you're going to counseling, or maybe you've got something going on that you need a specialist, please reach out to us. I have connected plenty of students who say for whatever reason they want off-campus resources. Great, I'm happy to help you. It does not have to be us. It does not have to be a counselor. It could be somebody from Spiritual Life. It could be somebody in the community. It could be a coach. It could be a mentor. It could be an off-campus counselor. What's more important is that we're talking. So I am happy to assist, and both of the other counselors are as well, in connecting you with off-campus resources. It can be hard navigating that, especially if you're trying to do it on your own for the first time. I always tell people the fastest way is to go through your health insurance, because they can tell you exactly who's in network. But that all gets confusing, and then it's got that phone that nobody likes. So if you want some off-campus resources, reach out to me. I will say, absolutely, let's get to work on it. So we will never gatekeep help. So the best thing you can do is reach out, start the conversation. All I need you to do is reach out, and I am right there with you. So that's my blurb on all of us. I could go on, but I'm going to cut myself off. But I want to invite everybody in here to please take a minute and join Haley in the front lobby. She's going to be signing some books, so take advantage of that. Maybe you can sneak in a few questions. But also, we have some really great community partners here with us tonight. They're tabling out front. We have NAMI Charlotte that's here, but we also have Mission 34, and they have a table out there. So please stop by, talk with them, learn a little bit about what they're doing, and let's keep this conversation going. So thank you so much for coming tonight.